Greetings, ladies, gentlemen, and others, and welcome finally to the Season 4 tier list of Welcome to the Show. With me, I have Williamomo.
Hello, yes, I have made quite an assortment of fan-made videos on my own personal channel for Welcome to the Show / Brony D&D, and so yeah, when Lunacorva reached his hand out to see if I wanted to be part of this tier list, I was more than happy to oblige.
So, for those of you who might be new to this, well, first of all, I recommend you start with the other season tier list, but assuming that you are either lazy or terrified of hyperlinks, raising the question as to why you're on the internet, shout out to Stupidest Monsters of D&D for that joke. This is basically ranking all the episodes of Welcome to the Show in a tier very similar to the one done to the style done by Tiers. Now, because season 4 was a season that I was so heavily involved with in the creative process, I felt I needed to get a second opinion because it didn't feel right ranking episodes that had so many of my ideas in them. You know, I didn't know if I would be overranking it, overrating them, underrating them. So I got one of our biggest fans, the guy who's responsible for the fan server, William, here, to give his opinion on a lot of these episodes. So, now before we begin, let's just go down an explanation of the rankings. F tier is just a straight up bad episode. F tier episodes are the ones that, for whatever reason, are actually not fun to watch. They are something about them that makes them unenjoyable. D tier aren't bad, they're just kind of meh. They're just kind of dull. They exist, they're there. They're the kind of episodes that you don't hate it, but you're waiting for it to be over so you can get to the interesting one. C tier is decently pleasant, but not a lot happens. C tier is a little more interesting than D tiers. They're not dull, but they're not important, if you get what I'm saying here. D tiers are often your breather episodes, your relaxing episodes. So, where you have we might have a few interesting character conversations, a few fun set pieces, but there's no major events. B tier episodes are kind of an upgrade of C tier, where you'll get some memorable moments, some good character development, but then we get to the A tier episodes, and the A tier episodes, those are the episodes whose scenes are ingrained in the canon of Welcome to the Show. A tier episodes are your big times, your majors, Welcome to the Show would not be the same without these episodes. And finally, the platinum standard. A tier is your gold standard. S tier is your platinum standard. S tier are those rare episodes where everything is firing on all cylinders. S tier is the rarest, F tier is rarest, but S tier of the good tiers is the rarest rank of the good tiers. S tier episodes, we've only had at most 2 of them per season so far. It is an exclusive branch. So, shall we begin?
Indeed.
So first up, we have episode 120, A Selfish Request, and it's funny. It's funny because when I first started the tier list, I gave the first episode of season 1 a D tier. I gave the first episode of season 2 a C tier. Season 3's opener was a B tier, and it's funny, I honestly think A Selfish Request, the first episode of season 4, legitimately is an A tier.
I have to agree that it was really, really great to see the roleplay with all the characters being defeated by the actions of by what happened in the season 3 finale, and just seeing everyone in that state and seeing Ivan and Amber have a fight like that was just it was just incredible role playing all around, and I have to agree with A tier.
Hmm. So yes, we are putting Selfish Request in A tier. Up next, episode 121, Rebirth and Regrowth. For me, honestly, I give that another A tier because, again, it just had that moment with Jalaram and Amber that really stuck out to me. Like, Amber Bliss has become such a good role player that she brings so much emotion and passion and energy to her scenes. It really does feel like you can't go below A tier when she is role playing.
Yeah, I was initially going to give this one a B tier, but you're right. The scene with Jalrom and Amber is really incredible. Plus, this episode also introduced Shelter and Devane, who have both become fast favorites of mine. So A tier is definitely the right place for this episode.
And it's still carrying on the emotions of the previous episode.
Indeed.
Heron's Wake is an A tier. Like, just let's not beat around the bush here. Heron's Wake is a fucking A tier.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna try to argue that. I'd have no ground even if I wanted to.
Mm-hmm. Like that whole funeral scene. That was just. I don't think you could have gone better with that.
Everything went just so well with that scene.
Yes. As you'll notice at right now, I am contributing a lot more to the conversation, making a lot of decisions myself, because a lot of these earlier episodes, these were episodes that were pretty much just Josh running them by himself. It won't really be until a certain character appears that we really started to use ideas I had suggested to Josh, and that's when I'm gonna need Williams to be like, so where would these rank? But for now, 123.
Lady of Stone.
Lady of Stone. Now, I think the emotional gut punches slowed down a bit, but that episode still introduced a new main character and, of course, huge plot revelations. So honestly, I think that one gets it. That gets it a B tier for me.
Yeah, if it were just a regular episode, then Lady of Stone would get a C, but solely because it introduces Rhyme, who is a new main character, that automatically shoots it up a tier into B.
Yep. Up next, we have Reality of War. Now, the fight scene itself, I would probably say would be like a C tier fight. However, character... However, as a symbol of what the war was doing to people and the hatred it was putting people through, emphasized and symbolized by General Krister killing himself. Honestly, I think all of that puts it up into the B tier. Also, I realized I put Lady Stone in the A tier, so let me just swap that around. There we go.
But yeah, I have to agree. Overall, the episode is pretty alright, but whenever I think of General Krister, the very first thing I think of was how well done his suicide was, and I feel like for that scene alone, the episode should go up into B.
Yep. Up next, Familiar Yet Different is... I'd say that's a C tier for me, because, yeah, Familiar Yet Different is a C tier for me, because it is just a breather episode. It's a nice breather episode. It's got some entertaining moments, but it's still a C tier for me.
I agree. It's an alright episode. It's pretty standard, pretty average, so C.
Yep. 126, The Black Bard, though, that's another A tier for me, for one simple reason. Gatless Town's destruction.
Yeah, I originally argued for this episode to be in B tier, but I kind of have to concede that the burning of Gatless is just so monumental to the overall story that it kind of has to go into A tier by that merit alone.
And not only that, but Jalarum's reaction to it, which, in my opinion, is still the best performance Voice has ever given. It's like, and considering we're comparing that to things like his performance during the Nora reveal, when I say that that's the best performance he's ever given, that should tell you something.
You're right.
But yeah, and I understand what, and to clarify, I understand what William was saying. Like, most of the episode is just the shopping episode until we get to that scene. But back in season 1, I gave the Labyrinth, the episode where Jaminia died, an A tier. Because while the episode itself honestly wasn't that great, in fact I have a lot of issues with it, that one scene meant so much to the series, was such a good scene. It had to be an A tier for me. I couldn't justify it putting it any lower.
Yeah, I do have to agree there, because even though my initial thought was B tier, just like going back over those scenes in my head, I can just remember them so clearly because of how well the role play was and the ambience, and it all just was peak performance. Welcome to the show, and so I feel like that has to put it up into A tier.
Yeah, and besides, the episodes where the whole thing is basically hitting that emotional note, those aren't the A tier episodes, those are the S tier episodes.
Right.
Up next, we have 127, Hatred of Life. It's the Necronaut fight. I would personally make Hatred of Life a C tier, mainly because I think if the Necronaut fight had happened in the first 2 seasons, it would have been an A tier. But by this point, we'd had so many awesome spectacle fights against the Kraken, the Night Twist, Balzabul, Simula, that is simply... Josh had set the bar so high for the fight scenes that simply, here is a cool monster, enjoy fighting it, wasn't really cutting it in terms of A tier fights anymore. Now, this was the part where the best fights were coming down to the fights that had the most meaning for the characters, and while the Necronaut was a good foreshadowing for things, and very disturbing, in terms of character significance, not really that much. It still was comparatively more of a filler fight than the ones we're going to see. And I have to stress the words comparatively because it was still a good fight, but in many ways I kind of grade these contextually.
Yeah, the Necronaut fight is like a fight that takes place across 2 episodes, and the most notable parts of the fight happen in the next episode. And like you said before, the Necronaut, while a cool monster, just doesn't give off the same vibes as some of the more personal fight scenes that come later in the season, and some of the more incredible fight scenes like Balzabul or the Kraken. So it is so this first part of the fight does kind of have to fall into C tier.
Yeah, like I said, had the Necronaut fight come in season 1, it would have been, well, okay, who would have to turn it down so it wouldn't be a TPK, but it would have probably been in the same category as the Kraken. But by this point, we'd kind of like had so many cool fight scenes like that the Necronaut was that style of fight scene we started to need more. Again, bar had been set so high. Anyway,
Exactly.
128. That's not an F tier. That's not an F tier. I'm just Song of Despair. I was trying to check the title. It's not an F tier.
What are you doing? No!
I would actually say it's a B tier because of that moment of Jalarum almost dying. Now that wasn't quite because he didn't die, it wasn't quite up to put it into A tier, but it definitely put it past C tier. That moment of butt clench.
Oh, definitely. And I'm also pretty sure that this was the episode of the Necronaut fight that had Thurin dropping a house on top of the Necronaut, which was just awesome.
Indeed. So yeah, I'd say B tier for episode 128. 129, Terrible Tidings, and I believe, honestly, I'd say that's another B tier. You have, at first I was going to put it into C tier because I remembered it being just another, breather episode, but then I remembered, or was that the next one? Actually, yeah, no, that happened the next one. Sorry, I was about to put it into B tier for Ivan's talk with Drifter, but that happens in the next episode. So I think Some Terrible Tidings is a C tier episode. It's another just breather episode where everyone's just relaxing and regrouping.
C tier, really? I feel like the conversation between Ivan and Suzanne about Ivan feeling like he doesn't really have a place at the moment puts the episode at least into B tier.
You know what? You're right. It does. I was trying to remember which episode that happened in.
This one was Ivan Suzanne. The next episode is Ivan and Drifter.
And I think both of those B tier. They're good. They're good scenes, but they are for me, they're overshadowed by other far stronger scenes, even stronger scenes involving Ivan.
Oh, I agree, but I still feel like these scenes. Well, I mean, yes, but I still feel like these scenes are deserving of mention as I do feel like they contributed a lot to his story.
Yeah, they're above a C, absolutely. Like, I'm not denying that. Up next, we have episode 131, Sordid Investigation. That's another debating between B or C on that one.
I'd say solid B. The shopping doesn't really take too long, and that scene where the party speaks with Philanus was really nice, and it was nice to see that both Philanus and Nephthys are still alive, considering it was mentioned by Ziadril that not all the leaders that the party met in the first two seasons were still around, and also returning to the ziggurat was a nice little walk down memory lane of Chapter 8 from Season 1.
Yeah, you're right. It was a good bit of plot and character development, so yeah, that is a B. I agree, that's a B tier. Speaking of which, I was noticing this, and I brought this up with William when we were grabbing these screenshots, and of course, zooming around the map. It just surprised me, wow, it's really odd how close Direction is to the Galgari jungle. But also, it's kind of funny how in Season 1, all of these locations were mysterious, never before seen location that we must trek across the country to get to. And in Season 4, it's, hey, we're hopping over to Kanathuna, how you doing? Hey, we're just going to go to Optima to visit Orkrim.
Yeah, that mass teleportation spell really just kills the carriage business.
But in many ways, I mean, it kind of made thematic sense. Season 1 was about a world divided. Season 4 was about a world uniting.
Very true, very true.
Anyway, speaking of dividing the world, episode 132 for the people, and this is where I'm going to start deferring to William, because this is where I started to having a lot involved in these episodes.
Yeah, as much as you try to debate me on this, I'm going to have to say that this episode is an S tier. Watching this episode was the most emotional whiplash I have ever experienced in my life, from the intrigue of what's going to be inside of this house that the party has gotten coordinates to, and then, oh my gosh, surprise joy at hearing your voice and seeing Ravis come back, to wait, what betrayal at realizing that Ravis has been behind the war, and then he sends his drow warriors to kill the party. It was just unlike anything I've ever experienced in any story, and I honestly don't know if I'm ever going to experience anything quite like it again. And for that, I feel like for that unique experience that this episode gives, I feel like S tier is the only thing that this episode can have.
Appreciate the compliment. and its immediate follow-up, episode 133, Lightning from Heaven.
Lightning from Heaven is a solid A because the emotions of the betrayal are still very present, and you have Bravas killing Ivan, the rescue of Beline, Amarta, and Nora, and it is just and then we have Cruel fighting Amber for the first time, and it's just overall a great fight with great emotional investment, and and the saving at the end was just such a great reintroduction of those characters.
Indeed. So, just going up, we had Lightning from Heaven, A tier. Up next, we had 134, Facing the Darkness. Now, this is another one that was very much more player directed, and I'd honestly give that one an A tier too, because we had Amber's scenes, Ivan's scenes, Owen's scenes. Just, my God, these people sell emotions well, and they sell like despair, and they
Honestly,
sell hurt so well.
Well, yes, I feel like everyone did great. I do kind of feel like it's just below A tier and at the very top of B tier, just because I don't know. There's nothing in this episode that like super stands out in memory. Everyone did have great role play, but nothing was truly thrusted it into A. I feel like, though I do feel like because of how high of a B tier I feel it is, I can compromise in saying it's A.
You know what? Let's keep A tier's exclusivity. So I'll go with what you were saying there.
Okay.
Up next, we have 135, The Dire Dream, Rhymes Dream. And that...
Oh, easy A.
I was actually going to put that one into a B tier.
Really?
Really, because kind of with the same... Like, I'm putting that now, but it's still like open for debate. Kind of for the same reason you were saying you'd put Facing the Dark into A tier. When I think about it, it's like, again, for me, it's a great scene, but I'm thinking there are other scenes that overshadow it. Especially since Rhyme's dream at that point, especially when we compare it to her dream later, that dream felt more reflective of a sort.
Okay.
It was more low key. That dream was more low key in a way.
Okay. I can agree with that.
Yeah. The New Rebellion is another B tier for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. The CSI Gatlas was great, but everything else was pretty standard.
But not
just sort of meet and greet with old allies.
I mean, that being said, I do feel the idea of actually meeting these old allies was still a good enough moment for B tier. Trail to Tyranny, 137. What do you think on that one?
I said C tier. Jalen reuniting with Sylvester and Murphy was great, but that was really the only great moment, and I'm not really certain if the moment was good enough to put it into B tier. Though I guess I can leave that up to you to decide.
I mean, I get where you're coming from. On the same time, though, that also had the introduction of Sorn.
True.
It had the introduction of Sorn, and it had the revelation, I believe, that the party was. It had the introduction of Sorn and the revelation that the party were all branded as traitors. So.
Oh yeah, it was that episode that happened.
Yeah.
And so I can give it a B for the plot relevance.
138, King of Peace. Where do you see that one?
I give it a B tier because it introduces Cassian to Porus mostly, and also his introduction, I feel, just like perfectly painted him as a likable character, and it was nice. It was fun to see the party sneak into the party.
Speaking of sneaking into the party, the the uh implication that power move, which I believe is the episode that also had Harder Mummy, so it's getting an S tier.
Okay, hold on. I mean, Harder Mommy is an iconic scene that will live on alongside I Am Iron Man. But I mean, I don't know if we can give it an S tier based on that alone.
But okay, but all serious, power move. Where should we put that one?
I honestly A tier. The like it is such an interesting turn to have. Like the last time we saw with Leo, he was an ally that fiercely fought alongside the party, and now he's an enemy that terrifies the audience with his cunning silver tongue, and then the reveal of Sarita actually being Jewel, and then the cliffhanger of Beholders. I feel like a power move is easily an A tier. The tensions get really high, and the stakes feel real.
Interesting. By the way, did you know that we actually had a scene planned that didn't end up going exactly how it was intended due to a bit of miscommunication between Josh and myself of me not quite getting across what I intended to do. But
What scene is that?
there was a scene that we had planned where where Valir would charm a civilian to come to them with a message, basically taunting them. Basically, some person will come with a smile on his face and like, "I have a message for you," and he'd hand them a letter, and it'd be like, "You didn't really think Bravos was just pulling that whole I'm revealing my plan to be like some villain in a bad fiction. Nah, that's the thing. He knew you'd make plans around him, and that made you predictable. Oh, and by the way, you might want to read what's on my friend's collar." And that, like, they'd read the friend's collar, and it would just be explosive runes. Make a reflex save.
Lovely.
Like, that would set up
Just,
Valil as
just
basically. Valil was
to be
honestly
fair,
intended to be a more subtle elf in many ways, to actually be similar to Elvana, where Elvana
yeah,
used mind control and illusion, where Elvana was the straight up like dominant mind control. Valir would be more the illusionist.
to be fair, I'm kind of glad that scene got cut, just because even though that's like, oh my god, that does sound pretty, oh my gosh, but considering Valil's redemption arc, yeah, just casually forcing a civilian to become a suicide bomber, yeah.
I mean, Simula got a redemption arc. Ratha's got a redemption arc.
Okay, fair.
I mean, I get where you're coming from. It's like there's pros and cons with being cut. And the pros, it's like it did make him being the him being one of the nice ones make a bit more sense. Cons was he was originally never supposed to be the nice one. He was very much going to be the embodiment of
You let one of them go, but that's nothing new. Every now and then a little victim's spared because she smiled, because he's got freckles, because they begged. And that's how you live with yourself. That's how you slaughter millions. Because once in a while, on a whim, if the wind's in the right direction, you happen to be
And,
kind.
Valil was originally intended to be as, he was still a member of Venom. He was still cruel. He still had that mindset. Valir was basically Ivan, except he was full of crap. Who thought that, what Ivan was doing was an act. Ivan's nice, calm, cheery thing was an act to manipulate people, because that's what it was for him. But, and he cared about his fellow Venom members, but everyone else, he discarded their
Nothing.
lives like toothpaste. And it wasn't until he met someone he'd actually grown a kind of unintentional fondness for was threatened that he even started to question it. Until that kid...
I'm guessing that character was playing to be the child he saved from Gatlas.
Yeah. Until the child he saved from Gatlas was threatened, I mean, not only was he like 100% on board with the barn plan, he was one of the people capturing people for the barn. I'm looking for survivors wasn't a lie. He just didn't go into detail about why he was looking for survivors.
Yep. Selective truths.
So, yeah, it's kind of one of those, it's a pro and con thing either way, but getting back on topic, 140 Fade to Darkness with... Fall into Darkness with the end of the Beholder fight and phase capture. Where are we putting that one, do you think?
I'm gonna put it at B tier with phase capture, honestly saving it from C tier, because whenever I think back to the Beholder fight, while the cliffhanger of the Beholders from a power move was really like, oh no, this is about to happen. But whenever I think back to the Beholder fight itself, I honestly can't remember anything other than I'm killing Jewel.
Agreed. 141, the immediate follow-up to that, where everyone is kind of like really from Faye being captured.
Honestly, I have a hard time deciding between A and B on this episode, because everything with Faye and Elvana feels A tier, but then everything with the rest of the party feels low B or even C tier. But the moment with Belim summoning Nora was quite humorous and a big highlight of the episode as well for me. So I'm probably leaning more towards A, but at the same time I also can feel it going to B.
Given that the way you described it is how I've described a lot of episodes that I've put into A tier, that sounds A tier to me.
Okay, that's fair.
Anyway, 142, which is, I'm trying to remember the actual title name.
Dancing with Shadows.
Yes, Dancing with Shadows, 142. Where are we putting that one?
I think I'm gonna put it with A. I really loved the conversation between Owen and Rhyme towards the start of the episode, and then we got another dream where Zaylin is trying to break Owen's loyalty to Litamara. And then I feel like the crown jewel of this episode is the duel between Soren, Jalarum, and Nora, which honestly, when I watched this episode the first time, I was more listening to it than watching. While I was driving home from a friend's house, and I was on the edge of my seat listening to every breath of that fight.
Mm-hmm. Up next, Quid est Veritas, where Elvana becomes your favorite character, and your previous favorite character gets a cameo appearance. Where are we putting that one?
How dare you insinuate that anyone could ever top Arkoth as my favorite character? I'm going to give this episode a B. It did have some really great stuff from Faye and Elvana and fake Arkoth, but the council scene was okay. And
really?
The point...
Because I remember your reaction to that one, the council scene...
Oh, yeah, wait, no, I'm okay, I'm sorry, I'm reading over my notes. The council scene was all... okay, let me, I'm actually going to start over on talking about Quid est Veritas.
Yeah, because I remember you really enjoying the council scene. That was one that we had the quote of, I hate Ravus, I love Ravus.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like it's going to be a high B, maybe an A, because the stuff with Faye and Elvana is still super great. The council scene was honestly better than the council scene of season 1, which I hold as one of my favorite moments of season 1. But the moments between those great moments were pretty So I feel
I've got a question then. Would you rate this higher or lower than the Black Bard?
I would probably say higher than the Black Bard.
Well, if the Black Bard's an A tier, then...
Okay, yeah, that's very fair. That's fair.
Okay, we got another A tier. Up next, we have... Where are we?
Victory of Hope.
144, Victory of Hope, and Jaminya's Return.
I mean, come on, that has to be an S tier. Jaminya's return aside, I mean, the tavern scene in the beginning was phenomenal between Venom and the heroes of Jaminya. Faither's torture is still as great as the previous episodes. There's a suspense from the ticking clock of the ambush that's about to happen, and it honestly, there's just so much great. There's like this episode is on point at all times, which we've said before is the definition of an S tier.
All right. I did not expect to get 2 S tiers this early.
It's a good season. What do you want?
It's also a long season. I mean, this season is more than twice as long. Not only is it more than twice as long as season 1, this season is longer than the first 2 seasons combined.
Yes. If I remember correctly, it took almost 2 years just for this season to finish coming out.
Oh wow, I think you might be right. Holy shit. But yeah, this was a long season. Anyway, up next, 146 Raining in Chaos.
Honestly, I give this an 8. This is another A tier episode for me. I absolutely love the Battle of Selenia.
Really?
It has so many epic moments. The group breaks up into different fights, and each one feels just so awesome. No, there isn't any like one battle going on that's like, oh, okay, that's okay, but this one over here is great. No, they all feel great, and I love Party trying to fight both Venom and trying to get Directian and Sabaton to stop fighting, and then the fight between Ziadril and Cassian is the pinnacle, I feel like, of this episode, and it's just an overall great ride, in my opinion.
Okay. 146, The Reformed Coalition.
It's a B tier. Starts with the continuation of the Battle of Selenia, which is great, but then the second half it's an okay episode. It kind of has to be because we just had, the big battle, so it makes sense to have some calm, but having that calm with the greatness of the first one, I feel like averages out to a B tier.
Mm-hmm. So, up next, we have 147 Gentle Morrow, or in Faye's case, a Gentle Afterglow.
I'm
sure she'd be ranking the night as an S tier.
True, very true.
S for screaming like a howler monkey.
I gave this one a B tier. It had some good humor with Ivan, some good character insight from Rhyme, and some good conversations with Owen and Zaylin. But the episode is, like I said, it's good, but there's nothing really stand out.
Yep. So, putting into the bonk tier, bang tier, B tier. Up next, Strategy and Respite, the episode where Jalaram becomes the UAA General.
This episode gave me pumpkin spice latte flashbacks from when I used to work at Starbucks. D tier.
Okay. Wouldn't that be an F tier then?
Yeah, go ahead, put an F tier.
Alright, putting in an F tier.
Okay, no. Serious answer, it's an A tier. This episode had a lot of stupendous moments, with especially Jalron becoming the general of the United Altascan Army, Sorn messing with Jalrom in Gatless Town when he went to go revisit his mother's grave, Jim cowering from shelter, showing her PTSD after being in Nessus, or actually, well, she wasn't just in Nessus, so just being from being in Bator for all that time. Hana reuniting with the party for a brief moment, and then, of course, Asmodeus just coming out of the blue and saying, "Favor time."
Mm-hmm. And speaking of that, we have 149, The Bigger Picture, with Asmodeus and his little talk with Rhyme.
I put it in a B tier. His talk with Rhyme is the highlight of the episode, and it also does introduce Lavindia, which is nice. But after Asmodeus and Rhymes conversation. The episode is pretty standard, pretty slow, so overall a B tier.
Then we're back to Fire Elf Island with Moon's Light Side and the Tarask battle. Sorry, did I say Tarask battle? I meant the Tarask screw you doc.
Next one is Fire and Earth. It's 150, the other one that doesn't have a title.
Oh, yes, you are correct. 150 Fire and Earth, the other one that doesn't have the thingamathing.
I give this one a pretty substantial A, because sneaking around Autumn Fire was very fun. We got to meet Gareth, who became a pretty mainstay character after this episode. The gladiator battle between Rhyme and Varag was just phenomenal, especially with Rhyme's gladiator persona. And then ending with the mother flipping Tarask reveal, and then all songs and orchestral remix of Megalovania. Yeah, this is an A tier.
Yep. As for the actual... I couldn't say that word with a straight face. Battle against the Tarask, where we put that.
The 2-minute battle against the greatest monster in D&D. Honestly, B tier, because aside from how amazing the pebble throw was, the fight against the Tarask honestly doesn't stick out that much to me, aside from the big brain pebble. However, we did get to meet Nyan at the end, so that was also pretty cool. So either high B or low A, I feel like is the fitting for this episode.
Up next, 152, No More Games. That is the one where Ravus decides he's done fucking around.
Okay, so I freaking love this episode. I question giving it an S tier, but I feel like I don't want to bloat S tier with this season, because I know there's probably one or two more coming up, and so I don't want to bloat it. So I'm at the very least giving this a super high A, because it starts off with Nyan telling the party who she is, and of course Nyan becomes a really big player in the rest of the season, and it's an amazing moment. And she explains how she follows Elistrai. And you have Ravus forcing the party to show themselves by threatening the children, and then the party surrendering their lives for the children. Valil's first sign of regretting the Drow's actions and turning over a new leaf. We have giant child dragon Ivan with the unexpected save, and Ravus
Because
to his word, being the lawful evil character he is.
If it really is S tier worthy, we can. But let's ask the question: the other two S tier episodes, For the People and Victory of Hope, does it measure up to them?
There's part of me that wants to say yes, but it was just there was greatness all around in this episode. Though there isn't that key moment that like Jamina's emergence or Ravus's betrayal that truly pushes it into S tier in this episode. So even though I feel like it was firing on all cylinders, there isn't that super oomph factor, I feel like, that does truly push into S tier. So I honestly want to create an A+ tier just for this episode.
Yeah. But sorry, high A tier for No More Games. Up next we have 153 Cracks in Confidence, with recovering from what just happened in the previous episode.
I'm probably gonna have to say B tier. Really like some things that we got from Amber and Ivan in this episode, especially about the child who was killed in front of them. Ithram and Jalaram speaking with Lark was really nice to see, and then we also had the Elistray reveal, and Jalaram speculating about Asmodeus' plan. But again, it's an episode where there's a lot of good things, but not really any super great things. So overall, just a B.
Mm-hmm. Up next, we have 154. Oh, 154. Love and
Oh my
Vengeance. The
gosh.
one that made
Love and
you cry.
Vengeance. It did make me cry, and it's like because it made me cry. It's like it's like again, I want to put this in the A+ tier. We had one, but it's like just an inch away from S tier. It is an A tier, but it's like again, it's like it's A+ tier though. It's just
I
oh my gosh! It starts with this. It starts picking back up with the scene with Elistrai, and that's already great. And then the reveal of Nora and Gareth being the children of Valnary, the woman Jalarum murdered, and then Sorn showing up in the shadows at Gareth's jail cell. Jaminia putting the pieces together after after learning Gareth's name and bringing back that note. As soon as she brought that note back out, I'm like, oh no, I knew exactly what was happening. And then Nora's running away from everything in confusion, and oh, it's such a great episode that made me feel so many emotions.
By the way, when Sorn said this didn't go quite the way I was hoping, would you like to know what actually was hoping would happen?
Nora would kill him.
That they fight and that they try to kill each other. And had that happened, he would have teleported into attack the weakened.
But yeah, it's like again, it's like as much as I love the episode, it's again like No More Games. It just lacks that special oomph.
Are you sure that? Are you sure? Given how your reaction to that reveal, are you sure that wasn't the special oomph?
Maybe. Again, I don't want to bloat S tier, but I do kind of feel like this episode did elicit just such a strong reaction from me, and again, it was on the same level of emotional investment as I had with Jaminia's return. So maybe I don't know. Maybe we should put in S tier.
I'll just say this: don't think it. We shouldn't be reckless with the S tier. You know, S tier's exclusivity is a reminder of us. You know, it has to be an S tier. We can't just start putting episodes because we like them in S tier, but we shouldn't avoid putting things in an S tier if they ultimately fit, just because we didn't want to bloat it. Because back in season 3, I was trying to keep to only one S tier per season, but then the Arcos Redemption episode, and even though we'd already had an S tier 1, it's like Arcos Redemption episode couldn't be anything less than an S tier with how much the audience loved that one.
Right.
So it's like, if you really think it's an S tier, it's an S tier.
It's an S tier.
Yep. Love and Vengeance. And season 4 becomes our first season to have 3 S tiers. Up next, we have 155, Obstacle Overcome.
I'm gonna give an Obstacle Overcome a B tier. Starts with a pretty strong. It starts and ends pretty strong with Owen and Zaylin at the start, and then Owen and Verdok at the end. Got some cool stuff from Alvana as well, but at the same time, it's like got a lot. We got a good amount of. We have a healthy amount of good things in this episode, but nothing that's truly great.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Also, wow, like we have had only 2 C tier episodes and not a single D tier so far. That is
Season 4 just
was on a
like
streak.
Yeah.
156, Sacrifice of Self.
And just as you say that, I think I might have to give this one a C because it's pretty great overall, though because it has Rhyme's transformation into a drow, which is big plot relevance, I might actually have to rescind rescind that earlier statement of giving it a C and give it a B simply because of how permanent of a change that is, making it super plot relevant.
True. So, B tier?
B tier.
Alright.
Wait, actually, okay, yeah, no, yeah. Well, actually, I just realized that the transformation was only discussed in that episode. It actually begins at the start of the next episode. It's actually in the start of the next episode. So maybe actually a C.
True. Then again, okay, I'll make this up. I'm putting the C tier for now, but let me make this argument. While what was more significant? Her making them discussing it and her making the choice to transform, or them casting the spell?
That's fair, yeah.
It's like, what's more important, pulling the trigger or the bullet hitting?
Yeah, that's a fair point. So probably the deliberation of the choice and then Rhyme actually making that choice is probably, like, the fact that she actually made the choice. Even if the spell wasn't cast, she still made the choice in that episode.
Mm-hmm. So back to B tier?
Yeah, back to B tier.
157, Wooden Horse. Where the first trip to Lathanalorn.
Again, like, this is the episode where the spell is actually cast to turn Rhyme into a drow, and that's like the very beginning of the episode, and then the rest is really just them planning the Lathanalorn invasion, and then everyone but Faye agrees to go, and then the episode ends with everyone teleporting into Lathanalorn, and then Faye goes off to go get Gareth out of his cell, and it's pretty much just a planning episode, so I'm honestly thinking I should probably give it a C tier.
Yeah, that makes sense. 158, The Hornet's Nest. And now we actually have our first... I was mistaken before. You're right, now we actually have our first introduction of Lathanalorn.
Yes, and because it's the introduction to Lathanalorn, I feel like that alone would already put it into A tier because of how much Lathanalorn has been built up over season 3 and 4, and now we're actually seeing its culture and what that land is actually like. But on top of that, we have the moments between Nora, Faye, and Gareth, and then, like I said, we're also really great in my opinion. Then we have the start of everyone sneaking around Lathanalorn, learning about the drow culture. What they see, the statue of Urdusk. They learn about the reproduction law, and this is also the episode that has the scene in the library between Rhyme, Ravis, and Nyan and we get the reveal that Rhyme is actually half drow.
Mm-hmm. Then, 159, Light Through Cracks.
This is getting another A tier. It opens with the conversation between Jalarom, Ivan, and Valil in the shack in Lathanalorn, and we get an insight into Valil's mindset about having doubts about Ravis and Venom, and thinking that maybe he should switch sides. And then we also have the scene with Cruel and Ravis, and we get to see, them interacting with each other outside of battle. And, Amber gets to see a side of Cruel other than just the monster she fights all the time.
Speaking of which, because I never actually asked this. How was it for you getting to see the more, for lack of a better term, human side of Cruel, where up until now he had been, just the silent monster brute of the team?
Oh, I absolutely loved it. For a while, I knew that there was a lot to Cruel's story, and so seeing that he wasn't a mute, that he actually had, personality outside of kill, 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 was just like, I just loved it, every second of it.
The sad part is, and this was something that was good on paper but tricky to do in in the actual combat encounters, Krul was always meant to be he was actually meant to be more like an abridged Cell or Vegeta character, kind of really good at playing mind games with people he was fighting, getting in their heads. Where which was something obviously that was a little harder to get across in a that was a little harder to get across in the whatchamacallit, in a combat encounter, to remember to speak the dialogue and do the role playing during then. That's something that's a little harder to improvise.
Right.
So it often ended up with him being more mute in combat scenes. So this episode was that chance to show the wit with him going on his tirade on the party.
Yes, but on top of like all that great stuff that was already going on, we also have the introduction of the barn, which, I mean, need I say more?
And at the end of the episode, the return of fucking Varna.
Yeah, Elvana, who has brought a friend in Eimer back. This time for real, not an illusion like before with Eimer and Arkoth.
Speaking of which, how do you feel when I told you? No, that's not an illusion. That is actually Eimer.
I was like, no, I was in strong denial for a good bit, and then I was like, wait, okay, I think he's actually telling me the truth this time.
Yeah, nah. Yeah, that time, 100% telling the truth. And to be fair, I've never lied to you.
You somewhat lied to me.
No, I literally never lied. I told you the truth about Ravus. Both times, I told you Ravus was the villain. I also told you Ravus betrayed someone in Season 3.
Yes, but you knew how you were using your words.
Still not a lie.
I know, and I think that's the worst part.
Anyway, up next, the battle against Elvana in 160, Honey and Poison.
It's a high B. Like, it was a great fight, but when we went back to Loch Lore, it was just kind of alright. So I feel like it's a high B, maybe A, because of how great that fight was.
Okay,
but,
once again, better or worse than the Black Bard?
I feel like the Black Bard was better.
Yep. So high B for Honey and Poison.
Yes.
That would have been an A. That would have been an A for me personally, but I'm deferring to you because I feel I am a little bit biased, given that it was, Elvana was someone I'd put Elvana and her stuff was something I'd put, had such a hand in.
Yeah.
161. I think it was curing the sickness.
Curing the sickness, I'm honestly gonna have to put into C. There's nothing bad, but nothing that really is good enough to put it into B. The best part was the return of Stimula, which lasted like 10 seconds.
If that. 160. Okay, now this next one. This was all Josh's idea. This was all Bliss's performance. So I'm free to say this. If this isn't at least an A tier, you're disqualified from having an opinion.
Okay, hold on. I'm trying to find in my notes.
That's the one where Amber's father has to sacrifice himself.
Yeah. I just got to it. Yeah, good father. No. I have it listed as A tier, if maybe like possibly even like borderline S.
Mm-hmm.
like going up into the A+ tier that doesn't exist with No More Games.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just like, oh my god, that was so incredible. Probably, honestly, I think the best roleplay we've seen from Bliss, which is saying something because Bliss has such great roleplay, especially in this season.
She's the fucking queen of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. 163, plans for the future.
Plans for future, I'm gonna have to give it a B. It's a mix of average and good. The highlights being reconciling with Yurlissa and Jalrom's battle plan, and Amber getting lightning breath.
Which was cool.
Yes.
164, great revelation.
I think I'm gonna have to put it into A tier. Because, I mean, we have Faye and Nion's conversation, then we have Jalrom and Jalrom the Blueberry, which was hilarious and probably Beline's greatest prank ever. Then we have the Mummy King's story and his predictions. The episode is mostly B tier, but ever since the season started, I was like, okay, the She-Devil, or actually, wait, no, ever since Jaminia came out of the diamond, it's like, all right, the She-Devils have turned. It's time to go back to the Mummy King, and this episode finally gave me that. So, yeah, I think I'm gonna have to give it an A.
Yep. Then, 165, looking ahead.
See here, looking ahead, what do I have?
I personally say that was a C tier, because that was an episode where they were all like going across the country trying to look for, literally trying to find stuff, but weren't really,
Yeah, I don't really. There's nothing that really stands out from that episode. But like, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't a dull episode. But nothing boosts it into B. So C tier is very much what I have written down.
Yep. 166, Like a Woman, the episode that killed the fandom from cuteness.
Hey,
Yeah.
C tier.
Yeah, of the
had
breather,
me laughing harder than anything else in this entire series.
Yeah, usually the breather and comedy episodes are C tier or B tier, but that was such a good breather and comedy episode. It's such a cute and heartwarming and funny scene that, yeah, I agree, it's an A tier. 167, Beginning of End, with I think that's the first one where they go to Optima.
Yes, it's a solid B tier. It has a very strong start with Zaylin attacking Nora's dream, and then we have some good conversations, some good jokes the rest of the episode, but nothing really matched the strong start with Zaylin and Nora. So I feel like B is what it gets.
Mm-hmm. 168, Crossing Fear's Bridge.
Honestly, it's a C tier for me. I mean, it was interesting to see Optimar in the state, but at the end of the day, it was essentially a dungeon crawl episode, which historically have been C tier episodes, and yeah.
Well, actually, most of them have been D tier episodes, but so this was a little better than most dungeon crawl.
Yeah, that's true.
Then, we have
At Fate's Crossing.
169 at Fate's Crossing.
B tier. It was an average episode with an above average ending.
My god, BTO is getting swollen here.
I mean, there was a lot of episodes where it's like, I mean, it was all right, but except for this one, that was really good. So yeah.
170, Battle for Optima.
Just keep on adding to that B tier because this one's going in it as well. The battle isn't that standout for me, though it does have a few heck yeah moments. with it does have a few heck yeah who are uh, God, what did I write down here? It does have a lot of heck yeah moments in it that pushes it up into B tier. All right there.
Yeah, just sneezing.
Yeah.
171, Who You Are. That's another, because that again was all Josh and Ari, and that's another for me. That's another. It's an A tier, or you're not allowed to have an opinion.
Yeah, I have Who You Are. It has too many heck yeah moments to not be A tier.
Mm-hmm. Then, oh wait, no. I mean, yes, it's an A tier. But I'm sorry, I was getting it mixed up because.
Yeah, I was about to say, wait a second. I feel like the episode you're thinking about is Sleep's Healing Embrace.
Yes, that one is that's not an A tier. You're disqualified from having an opinion.
No, I have that. Easily an A tier. Major highlights, of course, being Valil's conversation and Rhyme reliving her worst day thanks to Zaylin. And those highlights are surrounded by various essential trudging through the unknown catacombs of Optimar. But oh my gosh, that roleplay with Rhyme in her dream was just so incredible.
And it's that episode why One Dire Dream from earlier was only a B tier to me, because that episode just so completely overshadows it for me.
Right. Which, I mean, fair, because again, yeah, that Rhyme dream was phenomenal.
It really was. And then 173 Heart of Diamond and the fan voted most badass scene.
Yeah, I think that's a C tier.
You want to run that by me again, Chief?
I said that's an A tier episode with Rhyme and Asmodeus kicking off the episode, and then the moments between Rhyme and Jewel were also with Rhyme, Nyan, and Jewel were also really incredible. With it being the first time that Rhyme is showing Rhyme trying to get Jewel to break away from Elvana's mind control, and then Diamond Dragon Amber, which I mean. Oh my gosh.
That is one of the episodes
awesome. Injected into my veins.
That is one of the episodes I wish we'd gotten your reaction to.
I'm sorry. I got really honestly recording. There were a lot of recording my reactions. Just felt a bit. I started feeling like I was having to force reactions in some of the episodes, and so I stopped because it stopped feeling genuine. And then, I wish you had just told me, do this one. Please do this one.
The reason I stopped doing that was that I started to worry that if I told you, this is going to be a one to react to, it would be almost a spoiler.
That's fair.
And you some pattern. Do you know what I think would have been a good middle ground?
What's that?
Would have been, you record all your reactions live, but only upload if, you think that there is actually a good thing to react to.
That's true. Yeah, I probably should have done that.
Yeah. Anyway, then up next, Earth and 174, Earth and Sky.
I have that as B tier, as the party meeting Gustro and then Orprum and Owen reconciling were both very, very well, very well acted moments and plot relevant moments as well that are in the center of an all around okay episode.
Yep. So B tier.
Yep.
Does the fact that Ivan's reuniting with his people for the first time elevate it though?
It does, but I feel like it elevates it to the top of B tier rather into A tier.
Makes sense. Up next, the fucking proposal.
I took a while to think about this one, and it's A tier. It's absolutely 100% A tier. I mean, Ivan's proposal to Amber was easily the super highlight of the episode, but we also had some great conversations between Nyan and Rhyme before that, and to sort of pick up the episode a little bit as well. But yeah, easily the proposal, the song that Finn wrote is easily the crown jewel of this episode that just rockets it into A tier.
Then 176, Meeting of Heroes, and another episode I'd wish I'd gotten to see your reaction to.
I know, because this is also an A tier episode. It has a strong start with the Drow taking Humelis, and how they use Sabaton. They pretty much turned Sabaton into a Jedha mining incident, Rogue One, and then the duel and conversation between Jaminia and Ravus is honestly one of my favorite scenes in all of season 4, and it's a reason why I made that moment the thumbnail of my season 4 tribute video.
Nice. So yes, 80 is getting pretty bloated too. 170.
It's a good season, dude.
177. Rethinking the strategy.
It's honestly a C tier. It's pretty average episode with a very little plot relevance. It has some plot relevance thanks to Jalam's plan and the scene at the end with Erevan, but honestly, I don't think the scene with Erevan is good enough to put it into B tier.
178. Becoming a leader.
This one's a B tier. Meeting and reuniting with all the battalions and the battalion leaders, especially battalion leaders that we have heard where we've heard their names before, but we've never met them before, was great. And then also Jalarum's "We Are Alatastica" speech was just awesome.
179. The Last Respite.
I'm gonna give this one an A tier. It continues the really good conversations that Jalarum was having with everyone in the army, and then we have the final Heroes Feast, and then that final Heroes Feast was just a really great moment. I feel like that pushes it into A tier.
Yep. Then
it was a B tier that then became an A tier.
Yep. Then we begin the Battle of Direction with 180. Primo ad Victoriam.
This is going to be a C tier for me because, in all honesty, the combat on Humelis has the same energy to me as a dungeon crawl, episodes of Nessus. So a good amount of the immediately following episodes are also going to be C tier.
Which is a shame because we honestly were trying to avoid it having that energy. I think what happened there was just Josh and I had two different ways that we wanted to approach it, and due to a combination of a little bit of burnout, the way we tried to marry those two ideas ended up kind of pulling the worst of both of them, because Josh's idea was simplified but very gamey, whereas my idea was more complex but more narrative. And unfortunately, while instead of getting simplified and narrative, we got complex and gamey.
Yeah.
Up next, Resist and Bite.
This one's also going to be a C tier for same reasons as the last one, with the mass combat feeling like a dungeon crawl, even though it almost got into B tier because it had the glory of the crab enemies, but yeah, it's a C tier.
182, Hearts of Iron.
This one was a bit of an improvement from the last two, though not enough to put it into B tier.
183, Birds of War.
This one actually gets the B tier because the wasps were so awesome that it just boosted the episode up a tier.
184. 184, Last Dying Breath.
And we return to the C tier of these mass combat episodes.
Mm-hmm. 185, The Metal Machine.
And this one is following suit into C tier.
Now, 186, The Last Stand.
So when I was going back through these episodes to put my ranking on them, The Last Stand is actually blocked in America, and I don't have a VPN, so I couldn't really skim back through it and just had to go based off of memory. But I remember the episode started the Venom versus Heroes fight, and that's my favorite encounter of season 4. So, A tier.
Did you say A or B?
I said A tier, though now I'm thinking it might be a B tier.
Because I think that's the one that starts the fight, but the meat of the fight is in the next two.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. So let's put that one in B tier.
Yep. Up next, the actual meat of the fight, which is Into the Fire.
Oh, A tier. Like I said, the fight between Venom and the Heroes of Direction is easily my favorite fight. As we get all these incredible one-on-ones between the heroes and their Venom counterparts, and it's just epic. It's kind of like how I felt about the Battle of Selenia. It's just everyone's battle is epic. No one. It's not like, oh, this one's epic, but this one over here is kind of lackluster. No, everyone has such great energy in this fight.
Mm-hmm. What's interesting to me is during the entire fight, Ravus is kind of absent in that he doesn't really score a hit on anyone, and no one really scores a hit on him.
True, though I take it, though I view that as kind of him being playing his role of a chess master.
Hmm. But it was interesting that the big bad of season 4 kind of ended up being the Unfought.
Yeah, I never really thought of it that way.
Anyway, 188 Dead Fantasy, where the fight goes into freefall mode.
That was an awesome escalation of the fight. I feel like the best way to have like a phase 2 of the Venom fight without like giving each member of Venom like, oh, and now they transform into their super forms or something like that. So I give it an A for keeping the energy of the fight from the previous episode, as well as giving a very, very creative phase 2.
Mm-hmm. Then 189, The War's End.
This one's going to be joining the giant bloat that is A tier, with the highlights being obviously the fall of Cumulus and Amber's repeated attempts to turn Cruel's allegiance. This just continues the high energy of everyone doing just so well that the previous episodes have done.
Indeed. I'll admit there were some things that bothered me about this episode, mostly about how the way the episode was executed gave a lot of people the impression that Ravus had just callously abandoned his people to die, instead of it being a case of no, they all knew this was the plan. They were all willing to go along with it. And right. It was...
Yeah, no, I got that. With how the Drow have been depicted in past episodes, it's very much a... We know, we know that every time we go into a battle, we're essentially agreeing to die for you.
Mm-mm. Then 190, Worth of Redemption.
Another episode where I wish we had an A+ tier, because it's not quite an S tier, but my lord, is this episode incredible, with everyone trying to calm down after the crashing of Cumulus, or well, the almost crashing of Cumulus, and then no one gets a chance to calm down because who else but Asmodeus comes down and puts the claim of the tieflings on the line, and Simula does what no one expects and actually accepts reformation. And then Ravus outsmarts the Grand Chess Master, the Lord of Devils himself, and turns into God King Ravus.
High A tier, then. Then, its immediate follow-up, 191, The Saviour Cometh.
This episode is horrifying and unsettling, and I love it. A tier.
We now have more A tier episodes than B tier episodes. Like, we now have more A tier episodes than any of the other rankings in this season. 192.
I did a great job on this season. I'm sorry.
192. The Cornered Rat.
This one's gonna make A tier even larger because it's going straight into it. Faithorn's breakdown.
Oh yeah, Faithorn's breakdown. Like, that's A tier by itself. God damn.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. Like, Bliss is MVP for role-playing scenes in terms of consistency, but if I had to pick the most emotional single moment, it would be that breakdown.
Yes,
Holy
I 100% agree.
Fucking shit. And then,
you know, it was also awesome to see Simula fight alongside the heroes. That wasn't, considering even when she was on the heroes team in season 2, she never fought as one of them. She always just sort of stood to the side.
Yeah.
And then freaking Balor Rhyme.
Then
so yeah,
193, Comrade in Arms.
I think I'm gonna have to give it a B tier. It's still a good fight, but it doesn't have the OMG awesomeness that Balor Rhyme and Faethorn's breakdown gave to the last episode.
Then 194, Devil and Serpent.
Another episode where it's like, can we just have an A+ tier? Because this has the absolute beautiful scene of Simula and her reveal of being a sanctified tiefling, and then her sacrifice of not giving up her life but giving up her soul, to where she no longer exists. She will get no afterlife, which is, I think, the highest form of sacrifice someone can give in D&D. And then we also have Asmodeus. Asmodeus's little life soup being opened up, and you know, of course, I can't dismiss what happened earlier in the episode before all the Simula stuff of Rayan being revealed as Solanor.
The riot-stopping episode.
This one's going to be a high B tier for me. It's a good start to the battle against the God Usurper, and
I meant I was calling Rain's appearance the riot-stopping episode, making it the riot-stopping episode.
Because Rain dies, we ride. Yeah.
Chapter 195, The Fallen One. B tier?
Yeah, I say B tier. It's a good fight against the God Usurper, and it has a brilliant move with Ivan. Use the battlefield against Asmodeus.
Then
the Infernal Mastermind is the next one.
Yep.
And that one for me is an A tier. It finishes off the battle against the God Usurper by blowing his head off, and then we go into the battle against, as the title of the episode says, the Infernal Mastermind, And this episode has, and the battle against, and the start of the battle against the Infernal Mastermind has plenty of great plays, like Ivan making the Devil's Dance, Amber's use of the of nuclear taser teeth, and Owen's words of chaos, and ending with Ravas entering the battle.
Another scene I wish I'd seen your reaction to.
I know. Again, if only we could go back in time, dude. But
What
then again,
was
I
what
already have
were
the
your
knowledge.
reaction? What was your reaction to both that and also the earlier Ravas outsmarting Asmodeus?
While I was outsmarting, I had no reaction. I didn't say a word because my jaw had fallen to the floor and I was too busy looking for it.
And his return?
His return, I honestly was hesitant to cheer because I was like, is he gonna help us fight Asmodeus? Is he gonna help Asmodeus destroy us? And I was like very uncertain as to where he was, as to what he was about to do after God King Ravas messed with his mind.
Mm-hmm. And then 197 Scourge of Demons, where Ravas kind of answered that question with a nat 20.
Yeah, that is an A-tier episode, an epic conclusion to the fight against the Infernal Mastermind, and then we start the fight with the Archangel of Demon Scourge, and we have Ravas's just what the heck nat 20, and it also, I love the bringing back the Archdevils and their angel forms, which is, just a huge callback to the entirety of Season 3, and then, of course, there's also, on top of Ravas's what in the world nat 20, like, how much of a luck sponge does this guy really need to be? We also have Phaethering casting Armageddon.
198, The Multiverse is Chosen.
Alright, for the Multiverse is Chosen, it continues the battle against the Archangel of Demon Scourge, and is pretty good encounter episode, and it would be a B tier if not for Phoenix Rhyme and Owen's time skip pushing it into an A.
Mm-hmm. I believe that's also the one where Ravas first used his team attack power too.
I think you're right, yeah.
Then Hand of Destiny, where Ravas has his
Thank God! Thank God! Thank God! Thank God! I'm in it!
moment.
Oh yeah, I literally have it. Is an easy A tier. Ravas has his two incredible saves with the end of the battle against the Archangel of Demon Scourge, and then saving the party from the Multiverse's Chosen by stunning Asmodeus.
Yeah,
and there's
again.
also Jarom's.
No, to say again, the
Go
fact
ahead.
that he was only able to do that because he was the only member of the party evil allied. Thank God he's an asshole!
Yeah, and then, I mean, there was also Jarom's killer checkmate one-liner, and Amber chewing out the Multiverse's Chosen's vocal cords.
Mm-hmm. Then, the 200th episode, it all ends. The final blows on Asmodeus.
It all ends is another episode where I was like, it's not only is it A tier, it's A plus tier. It's the finale for the battle against the Multiverse's Chosen. It has so many standout moments, like Jarom cutting off Asmodeus's hand, Rhyme's Phoenix form attacks, and the thing that really pushes it into A plus is the nat 20 Ravas had to give everyone a descriptive final act against the Lord of Bator.
So, does that push it into S tier, or are we keeping it to A plus?
I think A plus.
Mm-hmm. Then, Chapter 201, Rule of Law.
Another episode that's like, it's A, but it's A plus. it's the trial of Ravus and his exile was some of the best roleplay I think you had in the entire series, Jay. It's the conclusion to his character after everything that we saw from him in seasons 2, 3, and 4. We have the arrest of Jewel and Valil, the last surviving members of Venom. Beautiful and which is beautiful and somber. Then we have Alita Mara's plan to free the Tieflings, finally coming to fruition after all these years. And then the destruction of the first draft of the Primeval Pact is so satisfying.
So, A tier?
A tier.
Also put, it all ends in B tier by mistake. Let me fix that. Yep, now it's an A tier where it belongs.
Alright.
Then, the season finale, the final curtain, episode 202, which released on the exact day, 4 years to the day that the first episode of season 1 came out.
As incredible as this episode is, I don't think it's quite an S tier. It's absolutely an A plus. It can't be lower than A plus, but I don't think it's missing that. It's missing it's by a hair. It misses S tier.
I know your girlfriend would disagree.
Oh, absolutely. She disagrees. In fact, when she comes down to visit me on Christmas, I'm pretty sure she's going to strangle me for saying this.
I don't know. Maybe you two are into that.
All right, I'm leaving.
But well, that I didn't hear it. Oh. But yeah, sorry. The season finale. We have another 8 here.
Yes, it is an incredible episode. The scene with the ghosts and Jaminia's speech is such a satisfying conclusion. It really is a great curtain call. And then we have Alita Mara's play at the very end. And then we also have Rhyme and Owen agreeing to be gods at the very beginning of the episode.
Indeed.